While everyone's out playing RNG games for a hit of dopamine, I decided to look for games that could give me constant dopamine. I found this account on Twitter named Roblox Underrated Games, which regularly tweets out small games that should be given more attention to. It's a really great page if you want to look for unique games. In it, I found probably one of the best games I've played in a while on Roblox. After I finished the game, I immediately started to work on this video. Welcome to Madness Combat Tucker, a difficult movement shooter that requires you to constantly be focused and on the move. Inspired by the new Ground series Madness Combat, you play as Tucker, a grunt with insane movement skills setting off to fight gods and creatures beyond your comprehension. Now, I don't really play movement shooters because of the amount of screen clutter and extremely fast-paced action. It's too much for me to play. I've only ever really watched others. I decided to try this one out, and I immediately loved it. I recommend that you experience this game yourself. If you like movement arena shooters like Ultra Kill or Doom, you'll definitely enjoy this. You have your basic tutorial which teaches you the movement and to get a feel of the game. You can wall run, slide, and dash. I didn't really find myself using these too much as most arenas you fight in are really open and don't have a lot of opportunities to use them. It will also teach you melee mechanics. This is incredibly important throughout the game, and you should use it as often as possible. Meleeing enemy projectiles will heal you and give your next melee attack increased damage. Meleeing enemies when there's a red light will break their stance and stop their attacks. I found these to be really inconsistent during some boss battles, as I wasn't sure if the red light was part of the visual design of the boss or if it was the prompt to melee. Keep in mind that melee attacks have a large hitbox. You don't need to get extremely close to them. I found it to be very forgiving. Lastly, you can use your hatred ability by pressing left control, which gives you double damage for a short amount of time. You can also change your keybinds to your liking by pressing L. However, I don't think this works currently. Even after resetting when it said the changes would kick in, it still didn't. I've noticed that the world of this game is unusually pretty. While you have your monsters that could end the world in a single strike and the entire world looks like you're in constant agonizing hell, it's quite appealing to traverse in. Who knew the end of the world could look this beautiful? I'm not sure what it is, but I think it's because of the soundtrack that also complements the atmosphere. You have your ambient music which carries the feeling of this piece. There's also breakcore, riddled with beats and the amen break drums. This soundtrack encourages you to play fast while also exploring the world while it's calm. It really takes control of how you play. The developer of this game, Odipper. Made the entire soundtrack by themselves, using samples from other songs as a base to make their own. Definitely check it out. I'll leave a link in the description below. As you play through the game's 13 levels, you'll come across a variety of weapons. Spoilers ahead if you don't want to find out what the weapons are. You can skip ahead to the next chapter if you don't want to find out. First up, is the Valor. You get this in the first level after the tutorial. It's an accurate and automatic pistol of sorts, with the right click being a strong laser. Next is the Vestige. It's a FAMAS with a high fire rate, but it's pretty inaccurate. This uses ammo and you'll need to wait for it to reload more bullets in the mag before you can use it again, so you can't spam it. The right click is a surge of lightning that you can also use to boost yourself up in the air. The Swordsman's Blade, which you can find in the first level near the bottom of the entrance when you first enter the cave and defeat the boss, can be used to teleport to enemies with right click, dealing massive damage to them. Left click is an AoE dash attack. Then we have the Aerated Fist. You can get this after beating the third level. This lifts you up in the air and slams down on enemies, dealing a good amount of damage. There's a cooldown if you want to reuse it. The next item is the Ender Gauntlet. You get this after beating the boss Ender. You can use this to parry attacks and store charges to launch a powerful blast back at enemies using right click. More charges can multiply your damage, but also multiplies the damage you receive. The Bow of Justice can be earned on the 9th level after defeating the boss, which is located at the bottom of the map after the entire facility explodes. Left click can shoot darts at enemies, with right click recalling the darts and damaging any enemies that get in the way of the path back to you. Using the Ender Gauntlet's blast with darts stuck onto an enemy can cause the darts to start temporarily attacking other enemies nearby. Using the Swordsman's Blade's teleport on an enemy that has darts in them will cause a high damage double jump. In my opinion, I don't think I'll see myself using this weapon and its combos. It feels too situational, and with the levels being widely open, I don't think it'll do well. Lastly, is the B12K. This is a shotgun that can launch you up in the air, with the alternate fire being a projectile you can launch to shoot at, which can explode and deal damage around a group of enemies. There's one other weapon I believe that can be earned. It is hidden in the 12th level by crossing over the water and getting to the end of the terrain. Unfortunately, I have a skill issue with the boss. It's a lot more difficult than I expected. Let me know what the weapon is if you ever get it. Eventually, you'll get the Grapple Hook on the 6th level. You'll be using this a lot for the next half of the game. I had a lot of trouble using this because I found myself holding F to grapple, but it's a toggle instead. I often ended up getting too close to enemies and dying because I didn't let go of them. It was really janky to use, but eventually I got the hang of it. It could use an option to switch between the two. I also thought that grappling while on the floor and jumping to take off in the air wasn't my cup of tea. I would have liked it if you could grapple directly onto something without having to jump, kinda like Dying Light 1's grapple. I won't talk about the bosses too much, but I found them to be really insane and fun. It was quite the challenge. There were some moments where I thought the attacks they did were ridiculous and wasn't sure how I could counter them. There were a few times I was respawning outside of the arena, but a simple reset got me back into battle. The amount of stuff happening on the screen was disorientating sometimes and I would get lost in the sauce. This game took me around 4 hours to beat what it had to offer. The developer is still active and continues to work on the game, so I will definitely be keeping an eye out on what's to come. There are some extra modes to offer, such as PvP, which nobody was playing in, and a sandbox to goof around. Overall, I had a lot of fun with this. There were some slight issues here and there, but it was nothing to worry about. I found it insane that this game only has about 10,000 visits. It really deserves so much more. This game reminded me of a 2016 Roblox game, Silence. It was a first-person single-player story game. That game was such ahead of its time with the apocalyptic-like world building and futuristic aesthetics. Unfortunately, Roblox updates broke the game and destroyed it. I don't know why it reminded me of that game, but I think it has to do with both games being single-player and post-apocalyptic, fighting against different bosses. Anyways, I just had to talk about this game because of how much fun I had. If you want me to cover more underrated games, leave a comment down below which games I should talk about next. I'll see you all in the next video. Take care.